evening and welcome to Talking Pop Culture with Jake D. It is December 16th and roughly 24 hours ago, Amazon Prime gave us a little treat and The Expanse Season 5 dropped a few hours early for the very first 3 episodes of the new Season 5. The Expanse, I'll tell you what, it is an absolute pleasure to be able to talk about The Expanse tonight because it is absolutely, without a doubt, hands down, the best science fiction television show in production today. There is, a lot of times in this circle of the fandom menace, we talk about things that we are frustrated about. We talk about things that we're concerned about, that we feel like entertainment is getting wrong. And the best, absolute, most amazing thing about The Expanse is I get the opportunity to talk to you about amazing television, great production, and just a show that keeps on giving and making you want to come back for more and more and more. Season 5 has premiered with the very first 3 episodes now available for our viewing pleasure. And then from here on out, we're going to be getting weekly drops of the episodes through to the end of the season, which I believe this year is 10 episodes, which is definitely in line with what we have gotten for most of the past first 4 seasons. There were 2 of them were 12 episodes and 2 of them were 10 episodes, which is kind of pretty typical for what we see for what you might call event series or, kind of the more top tier stuff that we get from our streaming networks these days. So The Expanse, ladies and gentlemen, is so good. So I want to start out with just kind of giving a quick reaction and feeling, and we'll get into some of the plot spoilers a little bit later. Definitely going to be talking about all 3 of the episodes that dropped. I'll give you a little warning before I start heading into heavy spoilers. So season 5 of The Expanse was in many ways a shift from what we'd seen over the previous 4 seasons of the show, but not in a bad way. So after the events at the conclusion of season 4, the Rossi needs a lot of repairs and refits, and it's back at Tycho Station under the Fred Johnson, who's working to get the ship back into shape. So given the fact that the ship's essentially in dry dock for repairs, a lot of the crew basically takes shore leave of one shape or form. Holden remains with the ship at Tycho Station, supervising the repairs, and everybody else goes out to have their individual components of the story that even after just the first 3 episodes, you can see how they're going to knit back together. So I do have to say that it's a shame that there's a couple of characters that we don't get in season 5 due to their deaths and the loss of them in season 4. Notably, of course, Klaus Ashford and obviously the protomolecule projection of the investigator / Detective Miller. Now, what was cool, though, is that Thomas Jane, who played Detective Miller and the investigator, did still have his presence be known in this season because he directed episode 3, which was a very good episode. And I was very pleased with how his work there. It was really, really good and solid. So everybody sort of, again, spreads out to have their own individualized stories that are going to bring everything back together. So Alex heads to Mars. He wants to patch things up with his wife. Of course, Bobby Draper is already there. We've seen that Drummer left the official ranks of the OPA, and she's gone off to do her own thing with a ship and a crew. Not pirating, but certainly not part of the official OPA governing body any longer. Amos goes back to Earth to take care of some business that he's got there. Avasarala is now on Luna, who she is, of course, no longer the Secretary General as she lost the election. And the start of the story for Naomi is that Fred Johnson has located her son, who is, of course, with season 5's major antagonist, Marco Inaros. And Naomi is going to head off to see if she can't locate her son. And so everybody, again, spread out, doing their thing. And it's good. We get really long amounts of time with each character's story as they're going through these first 3 episodes. So we get a good chance to really absorb what it is that they're doing. Visually, the show looks great, as it always does. And that's something that I always appreciate, especially when you think back to the first 3 seasons, which were a Syfy production, which is not a network that is really, I mean, it's more known for kind of its cheesy sort of B-movie type look and effects for their original productions, which we didn't get from The Expanse. And as they moved into season 5, they just continue to up the ante. It looks really good. There's a little bit visually that, the CGI, even though it looks all right, you can tell that it's CGI in some of the scenes, but it's not bad. It's not distracting. It's tough to do something like this and make it look perfect. They did do a good job with it, though, even though there's a few areas, kind of like in The Mandalorian, where you can sometimes tell that they're on that advanced backlit LED stage, sound stage that they've got. So it was similar to that, where the effects weren't necessarily perfect, but certainly plenty good enough for television. The score continues to be a strength of this show. Really feeds into what we're seeing and experiencing. So overall, these first 3 episodes, and I'm going to grade them as a whole because that's how they were released. And I do like Amazon's choice here, because at the start of the season, there are a lot of pieces that need to be put in their places to move the story forward for us. And so by releasing the first 3 episodes concurrently, it allows us to take care of the entire season's exposition and place setting all at one go. And presumably, based on how we saw the end of the 3rd episode, things are really going to pick up from there on out through the rest of the season. So thematically, I think that was a really good choice by Amazon. I'm going to give overall, I'm going to come in at a 9 out of 10 for these first 3 episodes. The experience was The Expanse. It was absolutely still the intelligent, deep science fiction that we have come to expect from this show, and absolutely still includes the compelling character arcs that we've, again, also come to expect. So 9 out of 10 on this first 3 episode drop. Really, really good. So what do we get to see in terms of events, and how did I like them? How did I enjoy them? I'm going to do it not necessarily in the order that we see it on the show, but sort of talk through my thoughts about each particular character's arc that we get to see. I'm going to start off with the best one, which is, of course, Amos. Amos is an amazing character on this show, and I think that he happens to be one that's truly, truly loved by a large majority of the fans. Amos is heading back to Earth. He hitches a ride on, just kind of a low-end transport, and he comes into his berth, and there's a few people in there, and some guys come in and ask the passengers to pay insurance. What the hell does that mean? Well, it's a payoff, it's a bribe, it's protection money, right, from the mob is what they were looking for. And if these guys don't pay it, they're going to find themselves robbed, assaulted, maybe killed. And Amos is just not going to stand for that, especially not in his birth. And he tells the guys, basically to F off. And if they got a problem with him or any of his buddies in the birth not paying insurance, that, that's going to be a problem. He tells a story about how he found out that he can hold his breath for 2 minutes while engaged in strenuous physical activity. And he basically is telling the guy that was threatening them that, you can try to hit us with your knockout gas, but how much damage do you think I can do to you before I finally get hit by it? You basically told the guy, if you try to mess with me, I'm going to kill you. And decides to go ahead and press the issue, goes into the shower when, these 4 or 5 thugs come in and try to make him, pay for not paying them because it's a mob protection racket. And, Amos, he does what Amos does. He killed those well, he didn't kill them, but he beat the living hell out of them. I thought he'd kill them, but he said later that he did not. And his transport gets to Luna, where he thinks that he's going to be arrested by a couple of police type guys who come looking for him. And turns out they want to escort him to see Avasarala. And there's an interesting scene between those two where she's trying to figure out just what he's up to. She, of course, knows him because of being a crew member of the Rocinante. And there's this dynamic between them that Amos can just, Wes Chatham, he's a great actor. And he generates a really cool dynamic between him and Avasarala, up to and including joking about her stripping for him, which was just like, nobody else could pull that off but Amos, and it was great. And so he pops back from there. He heads down to Earth, and he's meeting up with settling some final affairs of a woman who basically saved him when he was a child. We don't get a lot of details about it, but basically Amos was, abused, human trafficking, things like that. And this woman was able to pull him out of there and save him from that life. And so he sees her as a mother figure, and she's passed. And he meets with her husband, who's packing up and getting ready to move out of where they live, because the residence was maintained by a local a crime syndicate kingpin, as a thank you to Amos's surrogate mother. And Amos just tells the guy, stop packing, I'm going to take care of this. And between beating up a pusher on the corner and then getting brought in to meet with this guy, it turns out that the kingpin that was keeping this up and running is somebody whom he has a past with. And they refer to themselves, almost as brothers between the two of them. And, the guy thought Amos was coming in to kill him. But, of course, it wasn't that. He just needed him to keep the place active for their mom's husband, right? And guy agrees to it, no problem. Tells him, but get the hell off of Earth. If you ever come back, I'm going to kill you. And Amos is cool with that. He says, got to take care of one more thing, and then he'll be out of there. So it gives you a lot of interesting insight into the background of this character, and we learn why he is the way that he is. So I think book readers have had a lot more significant background on this, but those of us who are just fans of the show and have never cracked the books open, we never got to see that. So that was pretty good. Didn't really get much of Amos in the 3rd episode. That really just kind of covered the first 2, but it was a cool insight into why he is the character that he is. And I absolutely love him. I just ate up every second of Chatham on the screen. So Alex, Cass Anvar, he rolls back to Mars because he wants to see his kid. He wants to see if he can bury the hatchet and make things good with his ex-wife. He ends up running into Bobby, who is now working for Avasarala. And they're trying to figure out what's going on with the black market sales of old Martian military equipment, because Mars is collapsing as a result of the opening of the ring. One of the events that happens between seasons is that as a result of Avasarala losing the election, the new UN Secretary General just opens the floodgates on letting colonists through the ring and to the habitable planets on the other side. So everybody's starting to abandon Mars, which we really got told was going to happen at the end of season 4, but it's really happening in earnest. Shops are closing, people are leaving, they're abandoning the idea of terraforming the planet. So Mars is just collapsing as a society and as a government. And anytime you hit a vacuum like that, a big black market ensues. So there's extreme poverty, but these weapons are leaving Mars like crazy, including stealth tech, including the power suits. I mean, everything, this Martian military equipment is getting sold, and a lot of it's getting sold to our big bad for this season, Marco Inaros. And Bobby hooks up with Alex after he sort of unsuccessfully tries to bridge the gap with his family, both his son and his mom. And so Alex helps her out trying to track things down and figure out what's going on. And they're pretty sure that a guy who is really high up active in the Martian military is probably the source of a lot of this black market equipment that's going to Inaros, who is, of course, he's stepped beyond being a terrorist. He's starting to take control of the belt and the factions of the OPA. So, hey, Lord Thoth. Glad to see that you popped in, man. Glad to see. Yes, I had a few cigarettes after I watched this because it was damn good, man. It was damn good. So the stuff that's getting sold from Mars to Inaros's faction in the OPA is fueling his ability to win more followers and have successful terrorist acts. And we learn that one of the things that Inaros is doing is he is flinging a bunch of asteroids at Earth. He actually started to set this up somewhat in the 4th season when he made some attacks on their anti-asteroid defenses of Earth. So you could see the plan was already in motion, even as far back as season 4, although we didn't necessarily put 2 and 2 together back then. And so Inaros is collecting weapons, he's collecting followers, he's collecting ships, and one of his chief followers is, of course, his son, and Naomi's son. And Naomi goes, to sort of deep into the belt is what I would call it. She has to change her appearance to look more like a hardcore Beltalowda, and tries to get her son out of there because she thinks if he sticks with Marco, he's going to end up dead. And she's not wrong. I mean, I haven't read the book, so I don't know exactly where it's going to go, but I've got a funny feeling that he probably does end up dead at some point in this season. But he has been helping Inaros as one of his chief lieutenants to set up these stealth rocks that are getting flung at Earth. We see that it's already in motion and happening as the rest of the cast is putting 2 and 2 together to figure out just what the hell is going on. Holden is, continuing to play his role as the captain. He's back with the Rossi at Tycho Station, and they are also sort of encountering the fact that the Inaros faction is starting to take over the OPA, including infiltrating into Fred Johnson's command at Tycho Station. And something is going on with the protomolecule that the OPA still has. And the annoying journalist who was making the documentary about the Rossi from season 3 returns, and she's trying to contact Holden, get more info out of him. And have him help her push these leads that she's got. And there's a really cool scene where she gets trapped inside a shipping container that's in the vacuum and kind of like a holding cargo section of Tycho. And they managed to get her out of there just before she runs out of oxygen because she broke the seal of the container trying to get out, and all of her air was leaking out. And they get her out of there, and they learn a lot more about what's going on with these leaks as it relates to the protomolecule, because the OPA is presumably in charge of the only remaining sample, that hasn't been turn itself into the ring or what have you. And of course, as we know, the protomolecule is some nasty shit, and it is dangerous stuff. So having her on the lead of something going on with the protomolecule research, again, clearly setting up some bad things. Presumably, I'm guessing that Anaros maybe could be trying to get a hold of the protomolecule, because that would certainly serve his seeming goals, which would be to be the dominant military power in the solar system. He talked to us about that in season 4 and told us about his desire to, really be that big leader. So that's, in a nutshell, that's kind of some of the major events that we see in these first 3 episodes. Of course, I would be remiss not to discuss the ending of episode 3, where the very first of the incoming asteroids impacts Earth in southwestern Africa. And it's a massive impact, certainly not a planet killer, but one that does an incredibly large amount of damage. And it's only the first of several on their way to Earth. And Earth can't see these things coming because they have Martian stealth tech on them, which is among the stuff that Anaros has been buying from these desperate ex-Martian army people who are trying to make money to get off and out of the system. Because again, Mars is collapsing, which is going to create a much wider spread problem throughout the solar system. And Anaros, of course, is the guy who wants to step into that power vacuum and take over and be in charge. Mars is falling on its own. He wants to get revenge and extract and attack Earth because he thinks they've been exploiting the belt and their people, and he's not wrong. His actions in response to it, of course, are wrong and evil and bad. But where he's coming from is not off. And that's one of the cool things about the Expanse is each of the factions has their heroes and their villains, their good, their bad, and their everyday kind of working class Joes that are just trying to get by, just a man making his way in the galaxy, right? We got a lot of those too, whom, perhaps, Holden thinks of himself that way, but, we'll see. Obviously, he's our main character. He's our hero. He's our guy. Even if Amos is my favorite. Yeah. But yeah, man. First 3 episodes of The Expanse. Again, to go back, it is an absolute 9 out of 10. I feel like in some ways we're almost like we're back into a feeling more like season 1 and season 2 of the show. And that's a good thing. Season 3 was my favorite, but with the change in the politics and the status of the solar system, you do kind of need to go back to that more season 1 type feel to reset the stage. And I think they did an excellent job of it. Naren Shankar, you can run any science fiction show on the planet. Please do. Every network out there who wants to make good science fiction needs to talk to Naren Shankar, because this guy's the best that there is. Hands down, unquestionably, Naren Shankar is the best sci-fi showrunner on the face of the planet right now. And if every show could go through that dude, I would be a happy, happy man. All right, Man of War, Man of War, hail! As you told Matt, you haven't seen it yet, so you're not listening. La 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 la. Well, by God, I'm glad to have you here. I think I'm largely through the spoilers and just more getting into reaction right now. So you're probably safe to listen for a bit. I'll probably go for another 5-10 minutes at the most. But yeah, 9 out of 10. Naren Shankar continues to hit on all cylinders. To me, this guy cannot do anything wrong. Every actor that he and his team put into place does a great job. Every one of them is believable, and you root for the people you're supposed to be rooting for. You see people develop and change over time. You know, somebody you started out perhaps not liking maybe becomes one of your favorite characters, like Klaus Ashford. I mean, by the end of season 4, this dude, next to Amos, was my favorite character on the show, period. And then, of course, he goes down hard right at the season 4 finale, which was disappointing. And I do miss him on this show because he was a great presence and a great influence on the OPA, which is it's a shame to lose him. And I am curious to see how they're going to have, because you need some characters to sort of fill that role and step into those shoes to an extent. So I am curious who's being built up in that type of position, because I don't think you're going to shrink the main number of characters that you're following necessarily. So, definitely miss Klaus, because that guy was a hell of a character. Perhaps the reporter Monica is going to step in some way, shape, or form, which would be good, because she's a good character. And even though you don't really like her, or at least you didn't in season 4, I'm feeling a lot more sympathetic to her here in season 5. And that tells you something too, right there. What she did in season 4 was very believable, and she was annoying, and you didn't like her, but she wasn't a bad guy by any stretch. And then we step into season 5 with Monica, and the motivations are consistent, but she's a much more sympathetic character, because what she's chasing in season 5 isn't necessarily something that goes counter to the goals of our main characters that we've come to know and love, over these several years since the show has been launched. All right. Well, I think that is it for me this evening. By God, it has been good chatting with you all tonight. And again, The Expanse season 5, I cannot say enough good things about it. They really nailed it on these first 3 episodes. And I am absolutely thrilled to see what we get coming up, especially to see how Earth, Mars, and the OPA react to the attack on Earth from the hit of this first of several asteroids that has been flung at Earth and is clearly going to cause some major, major destruction. All right, that is it for me tonight, my friends. Thank you very much for coming to the channel. Again, this is Talking Pop Culture with Jake D and my coverage of The Expanse Season 5. Don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends on social media, and please, if you've come across this and you like what I've got to say about the show, do consider subscribing to the channel and taking a look at some of my past live streams and videos that I've put out. I sure do appreciate you, and we'll catch you on the next video. I will be going live tomorrow night to cover the premiere of The Stand on CBS All Access. Another show that I'm very excited about and looking forward to. All right, everybody, have a good evening. We'll see you on the next stream or the next video.